The path to overcoming your darkest thoughts is not easy, and it is not simple. It is a battle that each person must fight individually. But there is a universal truth that can guide you through it. You are not defined by the thoughts you have. You are defined by how you respond to them. Now, the first thing you must understand is that darkness is a part of life. It is not something to be avoided or ignored. The darkest thoughts, the ones that bring you to the brink of despair, are not the enemy in themselves. It is the failure to confront them that is dangerous. If you pretend they don't exist, if you try to bury them, you will only give them more power. The darkness becomes more insidious when it's denied, festering in the corners of your mind. You must bring it into the light, examine it, understand it, and then, and only then, can you start to overcome it. The world as it is does not always make sense. It is chaotic, unpredictable, and at times cruel. It is easy to get lost in this, to feel as though you are drowning in meaninglessness, that your existence doesn't matter, that your struggles are futile. But here's the thing that is only a fraction of reality. Your suffering is real, yes, it is painful. But it is also temporary. It is not the entirety of who you are. When you face these dark thoughts, you must do so with courage. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to move forward despite it. You see, courage is the willingness to act, even when you don't feel like it, even when the weight of the world feels unbearable. It's about taking one step at a time, even when the path is unclear. Sometimes that step might be as simple as getting out of bed. Sometimes it might be having the courage to seek help from someone else. But every step, no matter how small, is a victory. Another crucial point is that you cannot do it alone. We are social creatures. We need community, we need connection. When you're facing darkness, it is easy to feel isolated, but remember, you are not alone in your struggle. Reach out to those around you. Talk to them, confide in them, let them help carry the weight, and in turn, you must be there for others. This is not just about defeating your own darkness, but helping others confront theirs too. It is in this mutual support, this shared vulnerability, that true healing happens. Now, there is another powerful tool in defeating your darkest thoughts, and that is meaning. A life without meaning is a life destined for despair. The moment you lose sight of why you're going through the motions, the moment you forget your purpose, is the moment the darkness becomes overwhelming. So you must always keep your eye on the things that give your life meaning. It could be your family, your work, a passion, or a cause you believe in. Whatever it is, hold on to it. Even when the thoughts creep in, even when everything feels hopeless, that meaning is a lifeline. It is your anchor, your foundation, the reason to keep moving forward. And it is important to realize that at times the darkness will return. It's not a one-time battle, it's a constant struggle, but it is a struggle that can be fought and won repeatedly. Each time you face it and move through it, you grow stronger. You become more resilient, more capable of handling the next wave of challenges that life throws at you. There will be moments when you question whether it is worth fighting, but that is precisely when you must dig deeper. You must recognize that the only way out is through. Life will never be free of suffering, but it is also full of opportunities for growth, for development, for transformation. Every challenge, every dark thought is an opportunity to build something stronger within yourself. Continuing to navigate through your darkest thoughts requires a shift in perspective. The battle against despair is not about vanquishing every negative thought or eliminating all feelings of sadness or anxiety. That would be impossible, and it would deny the fundamental truth of what it means to be human. Life in its essence is a series of challenges, some small, others immense. It is precisely within these challenges that we find the potential for growth, for transcendence, for meaning. When you feel the grip of despair tightening around you, it's important to remember that those feelings are not a reflection of who you are, nor are they the final word on your existence. Your mind is capable of producing incredibly destructive thoughts, and that's a reality of being human. But the mere existence of these thoughts doesn't mean they have to dictate your actions. Thoughts are not facts. Just because you think something doesn't mean it is true. Thoughts are often distorted by fear, by unresolved pain, by biases, or by the weight of the world pressing down on you. But here's the twist: if you don't engage with those thoughts, if you don't confront them directly, they will control you. You cannot outrun your darkest thoughts. You cannot ignore them or hope that they will magically disappear. They won't. They will continue to surface time and again until you look them in the eye, acknowledge their presence, and in that moment of recognition, choose to act differently. This is why it's crucial to take responsibility for your thoughts. This is not about suppressing them or pretending they don't exist. No, this is about understanding them, dissecting them, and deciding what to do with them. It's about recognizing that you have the power to control how you respond to them. It's one thing to feel overwhelmed by dark thoughts, but it's an entirely different thing to let them dictate your actions, to let them shape the way you live your life. You are not your darkest thoughts. You are the person who decides what you do with them. One of the most important skills you can develop in the battle against your darkest thoughts is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just some abstract idea or philosophical concept. It's a practical tool, a way of training yourself to observe your thoughts without becoming consumed by them. When you're mindful, you can witness the negative thoughts as they arise, but you don't get lost in them. You don't identify with them. You don't let them control your reality. Instead, you simply observe them, acknowledging their presence without becoming attached to them. And when you practice this regularly, you begin to create a buffer between you and your thoughts. You learn to see them as transient, passing phenomena, not as defining elements of your identity. This doesn't mean that mindfulness will immediately banish the darkness. It won't. But it will allow you to break free from the cycle of rumination, where your darkest thoughts feed upon themselves, spiraling out of control. Through mindfulness, you create space between the thought and your response, which gives you the freedom to choose how you will act in the face of those thoughts. That is where the real power lies, not in stopping the thoughts, but in your ability to act in a way that is not controlled by them. Another crucial part of this process is confronting your fears. Fear is often the root of the darkest thoughts. It's fear that tells you you're not good enough. Fear that tells you the future will be just as bleak as the past. Fear that tells you you'll never find peace, never find joy, never find love. And that fear, if you listen to it long enough, will create a narrative that is not based on reality, but on your own anxious projections of what might happen. To defeat these thoughts, you must first face the fears behind them. You must look them in the eye, acknowledge them, and take the first step toward moving through them. This is not to say that fear is to be conquered once and for all. Fear is a part of us, and it always will be. It's a fundamental aspect of the human experience. But by facing it, by acknowledging it and moving forward anyway, you take away its power. The more you avoid the things you fear, the bigger and more formidable they become. But when you face them, you diminish their hold over you. This doesn't mean that you should throw yourself into danger or recklessly expose yourself to harm. That would be foolish. What it means is that you need to examine your fears, recognize their role in your thoughts, and take action despite them. You must cultivate courage, and courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to act despite fear. It's knowing that even though you are afraid, you are still capable of taking a step forward, of making progress, of finding meaning in the process. There's something else that is essential to defeating your darkest thoughts, and that is acceptance. This is not the same as resignation. Acceptance does not mean that you simply give up, that you surrender to your darkness and let it consume you. No, acceptance is the acknowledgement that life is full of suffering, full of pain, full of difficulties that you cannot always control. It's accepting that, in spite of these realities, you still have the power to make choices, to create meaning, to act with purpose. Acceptance involves taking responsibility for your own life. It means recognizing that you may not be able to control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it. You can choose to rise above your circumstances even when the world feels like it's collapsing around you. It means accepting that you are flawed, that you make mistakes, and that you will continue to make mistakes. But it also means accepting that those flaws and mistakes do not define you. They are part of your story, but they do not have the final say. In the face of your darkest thoughts, acceptance allows you to let go of the need for perfection. It allows you to acknowledge your humanity with all of its flaws, contradictions, and vulnerabilities. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything figured out. All you need to do is keep going one step at a time. And that is enough. That is where the power lies, not in perfection, but in the act of continuing, of choosing to live, to create meaning, to fight the battle. In order to move forward, you must also learn to manage your environment. The mind is deeply influenced by the environment in which it resides. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, by toxic influences, by people who reinforce your doubts and fears, it becomes infinitely harder to defeat your darkest thoughts. That's why it's crucial to surround yourself with people who uplift you, who challenge you to grow, who support you in your darkest moments. It's important to find a community where you can share your struggles, your pain, and your victories. Isolation feeds darkness. Connection creates light. You must also be mindful of your habits. The things you do every day have a profound impact on your mental health. If you spend your time in self-destructive ways, if you engage in behaviors that drain your energy or reinforce negative patterns of thinking, you will find it far more difficult to overcome your darkest thoughts. But if you take care of your physical health, if you cultivate habits that nourish your mind and body, you create a foundation upon which resilience can be built. This could mean exercising, eating well, getting enough sleep, and practicing self-care. It could mean engaging in activities that bring you joy, that challenge your mind, that help you grow. It could mean learning new skills, pursuing a hobby, or simply taking time to relax and recharge. Each of these things contributes to your overall well-being and in turn strengthens your ability to face adversity. Your mind and body are not separate entities, they are interconnected, and what affects one will affect the other. One of the most powerful things you can do is to actively search for meaning in your life. Meaning is the antidote to despair. If you have a reason to live, if you have something to strive for, if you have a vision for your future, your darkest thoughts lose their power. Meaning is not something that is simply handed to you, it's something you must seek out, something you must create. It could be your family, your work, a creative pursuit, or a cause you are passionate about. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it resonates with you, as long as it gives you a sense of purpose. When you are connected to meaning, when you are living in alignment with your values, your darkest thoughts lose their grip. They may still appear from time to time, but they no longer have the power to consume you. Meaning creates a buffer, a protection against the forces that seek to drag you down. And it's important to remember that meaning is not static. It can evolve over time, and as you grow and change, so too can your sense of purpose. As you journey through life, you will undoubtedly encounter moments of darkness. You will face challenges that feel insurmountable, that test your resolve. But through courage, mindfulness, acceptance, connection, and the search for meaning, you can navigate those dark moments. You can face your fears and your darkest thoughts not with the hope of eradicating them completely, but with the understanding that you have the power to choose how you respond to them. That in itself is the key to defeating them. In conclusion, the battle against your darkest thoughts is not one that can be won in a single moment, nor is it a journey you can take alone. It requires the courage to face the fears that fuel those thoughts, the mindfulness to observe them without being controlled by them, and the acceptance that life is both painful and meaningful. It requires you to take responsibility for your thoughts, to take care of your mind and body, and to seek out meaning in the midst of struggle. Darkness is a part of the human experience, but it does not define you. Your strength lies in your ability to confront it, to continue moving forward despite it, and to build a life of purpose and resilience. Remember, your darkest thoughts are not the end of your story. They are simply a part of the narrative, and through them, you can find the strength to grow, to transcend.